Welcome to the Sunset Archon channel, where we aspire to game from night to first light. And as you can see at the right side of the screen, that is a floating crab. Today we are going to be talking about my magnum opus in Genshin Impact, and the reason why I am the Sunset Archon. Well, one of the reasons. The other one is I'm just running around like a madman across the continent collecting every sunsetty I see. But the second reason is crabs. I have dedicated the last 4 years in this game to collecting crabs. It did not start out efficiently, but with the advent of the Golden Apple Archipelago, in its final days I learned the secrets of crab spawn. And at that point I decided that this would not only be a fast way to collect crabs, but it would also be my form of endgame content to keep me interested in the game and not just quit every time there is a dry spell of interactive content. So, as you can see, again, there is a crab floating, and that is a crab that actually spawned into the game while I was paused. This happened to me in the Golden Apple Archipelago while I was standing on a rock where crabs typically wouldn't travel. And I started doing experiments like this there. And I found out that I could actually get multiple crabs to spawn like this, just waiting here for about 20 minutes. Some would fall, some would actually dig up from the ground. And then I would collect them, repeat it, see how many times I could repeat it. Because you'd expect something like this to have a limit. No. The only limit for doing this is your time. If you have the time to do this, you can farm these near indefinitely until you get 200 from a single location. Just get on the rock, pause, wait for about 20 minutes, unpause, see the crabs fall, collect them, go back in the rock, repeat. Simple as that. Now, I actually went over this in a previous stream, but I never isolated it into its own video. So, this stream is going to be completely dedicated to crab spawn, and another thing I felt was lacking in that explanation previously is the definition of what would be a good location to perform crab spawn. Now, this is not an ideal location, but it is perfect for explaining the conditions of crab spawn, like which crabs are good to catch and which crabs will actually despawn. Like this one over the water. This one is still fine. It will fall and you will still be able to collect it. But if there is a crab that spawns over deeper water, then that will despawn as soon as it hits the water. An unfortunate sacrifice. And once we collect these crabs, I'll actually get into that because I actually have a diagram for you to better explain it now. And it actually looks similar to the layout of this lake shore right here. We got grass, sand, or a bit of sand and dirt, and the water. So we got one crab, just right there, right on the edge. We got a few crabs in the grass. One of them actually standing on that rock. And I'm using Sayu so I can just walk around calmly and explain all this. Thankfully, they were close to this area where there isn't much tall grass. It's not good to have the crabs spawning in grass and having somewhere to hide, because if you don't have Sayu or another character that won't alert the crabs, it's very hard. It can be very hard to see the crabs if you're not actively looking for them in the grass. Like, see? This one's hiding. But it's red on green, so that makes it a bit easier. but there are also yellow and blue crabs. So that makes it a bit more difficult. Alright. So we're going to stand right here. So we can actually see if any more crabs spawn over the water. Now we're going to switch over to the good old bulletin board I made for the last stream I did, talking about other stuff. Give that a look. So, what we have is a basic diagram that I actually found searching for something that would represent how crab spawn will work. So, let us assume that crabs will only spawn in the air, and these represent the various environments they can fall in. So, first, you have a crab that could fall into the grass, as I just explained. That would make it harder to see depending on the color of the crab, and if you're actually, you know, looking for crabs in tall grass. If you follow the assumption that they only fall in a clear area like the sand, then you're going to miss it. And by the time you notice it, it's already running away and about to burrow into the ground. So the best place to have crabs is right on the what is described here as dry beach, where it's just completely open and you can see everything. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, where things get interesting is the water. And this is why I like this diagram, because it actually explains the rules of this very well. So what you have here is the wet beach. If a crab falls into here, it's quite possible it could be submerged. However, it is still in a position where you can still grab it. Now, where it actually despawns is once you get into an area above open water. Then it gets too deep in there, and that is when it despawns. So, dunes, dry beach, and wet beach are where the crabs can successfully land on the ground to continue existing. If it hits open water, then it just despawns outright. Alright. Hope that helped. I hope this diagram actually gives you a better explanation of it. I really did try to look for a good one, and I feel like this description of an actual beach makes a lot of sense in describing the behavior of crab spawn. I was honestly shocked that I found an actual image that encapsulates it so well. Anyway, that is the explanation for there. So we're gonna head back to the game. And during that time, no other crabs seem to have spawned in the air. But we are going to unpause just to see. Oh, so
surely I should be due a growth spurt by now.
So there was one crab that spawned right outside our field of vision. Alright. Another way to pick up crabs in the grass is using elemental sight. Yeah, I know. Using elemental sight in this day and age. So as you can see, that crab just turns up completely white, devoid of any elements. So seeing white on green is a lot easier than seeing yellow or blue on green. So for the different colored crabs, this would be much easier. So, this crab spawn location is right on the edge near Mondstadt of Cider Lake. This is not an optimal one, but it is good for a tutorial. Ironic that this is the tutorial area, basically. Or the prologue area. The location that I actually used for actual acquisition of crabs is Guyun Stone Forest. And it is this rock that I stood on to see crabs that spawn along that shore. In the water over there, the shallows, which can be described as wet beach. And then I would also collect all the crabs by those hilichurls. And a crab just dug up out of the ground. Perfect timing. So what I would do first is wipe out the hilichurls so they didn't interfere with my acquisitions. And then I would stand on that rock. I would stand on this rock, pause the game, wait 20 minutes, and then collect the crabs, rinse and repeat. Elemental Sight also works for seeing crabs in this water. Alright.
Strike a pose!
Okay, that should have been a clean bout. So we could also find crabs right around here. So it's in this wet beach around that rock. And then right around this shore as well. Those are the locations for collecting crabs in this Guyun Stone Forest location. Next, we have Inazuma. Yes, every region so far seems to have some kind of crab spawn location. So I would usually stand right on this rock. Sometimes crabs spawn here, but not very often. Now these crabs right here are constants. General crabs here, here, and here. Those are actually constant crabs that spawn every day. After that, anything else here is a random spawn.
Make my escape.
No crabs that I have ever seen along this line right here. So the crab yields, I don't really use this location because the crab yields aren't as good as the other locations. With Guyun Stone Forest, I've been able to get 11 crabs every 20 minutes or so. Sometimes maybe even 12. Oh. But that's the first time I've actually seen a crab over here. Nice. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm using Sayu and everything isn't running from me. Now, this is outside of the range of the crab spawn area in Inazuma, but there are still some crabs that occasionally spawn here. But since I already found a crab spawn location, I didn't think to test this area for crab spawn capability, since it is kind of a duplicate for the conditions of Cider Lake. Grass or dune in this case, in the case of the map. Then we have dry beach and wet beach. But this one has the rocky surface here. So again, I'm not too sure about the viability of the location. Now, the next location in Sumeru is a bit of an exception to the rule. Alright. Right here. Crab spawn question mark. The reason why it's a question mark, because like I said, it is contrary to the initial rule I had about crabs. I assumed about crabs, which is that they only spawn at beach areas. But this is more of a wading pool for lilies.
Make my escape.
Alright. I don't know why I did that. That can actually kill crabs as well. The moment they fall into the water, they die. There's a crab right there.
How dare you! A little amuse-bouche.
Okay. But with that crab, you get the idea, and there's another one. This, by the diagram's definition, could be considered wet beach. So, the crabs appear in this area, but it is just shallow enough that they don't just completely despawn. I don't use this area much because of all the algae and lily pads, because they actually crawl under here. So, I would classify the same level of obscurement as the dunes or grass area, if not worse. So I don't really come here as much to collect crabs. However, if you're just in a rush and need to collect whatever's available, it's good to know that there will be a couple crabs here for acquisition. For Fontaine, there is another area that I found in response to that Fontaine event where you're just running a bunch of attractions collecting revenue. During that event, when I was on a bunch of event platforms that they had put in that area, during cutscenes, crabs would actually spawn on those platforms, which made me mark it as a potential crab spawn location. However, the problem was those platforms were made over open water. So I had to wait until the event was over to actually confirm whether or not this was a viable crab spawn location that could be used along the shore, or if somehow a crab spawn location quite literally appeared over open water, consigning all crabs that spawn from this thing to death instantaneously. At the same time, there is another possibility that there is another unknown rule to crab spawn that could actually facilitate the creation of a crab spawn location in event areas, should it actually be in an area where crabs could naturally spawn. Would it somehow influence the crab spawn rate in some way?
Yeah. Attack! Yoo-hoo!
So, since that time, I don't think I've seen a single crab along this area. However, I could be wrong, so let's do it like this. Alright. Yeah, the other part is actually standing in a location that's close enough to the beach, but isn't going to interfere. Alright. Right here should be good. Pointed at this area. Oh. Okay. First crab in this area. Outside of that event. So there is potential. So this is a good time to show you guys live as to what happens during the evaluation period that I have. So with that first crab, we have confirmed that we can see crabs spawning in this in the area, and we can actually see them from this location. So now is when the time when I would actually pause and just wait. Just wait. And we will see if any crabs spawn before our very eyes. And even if they don't, once we unpause, we will see if any burrow up from the ground. If either of those two things happen, then this is a viable crab spawn location. So we are just going to wait for about 10 minutes. We don't need to go for the whole 20. We just need one crab for confirmation. One crab to show up on this screen while Paimon looks around wondering what we're waiting for. Now, the second location that I want to check for is in Natlin. I have been looking for a crab spawn location in Natlin. No luck in the mainland area, but quite literally in the very first parts of the new area, the resort, right in front of the Statue of the Seven, I witnessed crabs spawning. So I want to know if that was just a delayed fluke because of new game content that needs to be refined with a patch or two, or if it is genuine crab spawn mechanics. So that will be our next destination after this test. So, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy the experiment. Alright, it's been about 7 minutes since we started the experiment. And one thing I forgot to mention, yes, you are able to collect about 200 crabs in just a day from this. If you have the time, as I said, but one thing I need to remind people is that I discovered this in 2021. Yeah, back when lockdowns were happening. So I had a lot of free time on my hands. Like I said, this was one way for me to stay interested in the game, even if there was alleged droughts or just boring endgame content. Like I said, this is my endgame content. But at the same time, this discovery and subsequent research gave me a way to stay sane during a point of isolation where you just didn't know when it was going to end. So if you do find something that you want to research, it's okay to put your all into it. It helps you to stay together sometimes. And when you actually make progress, that's a good feeling. It's good to make something. It's good to discover something. It is good to research something and put thought into it. Put care into something that you care about. Alrighty, it has now been approximately 10 minutes, so we are going to unpause and see if we got any crabs in the area. On the screen, it doesn't look like we have anything, but let's see.
Seems like I should have just stayed in bed today.
Alright, we got one. Okay, we were actually looking in the wrong direction. So, we have one crab over here, and it looks like the crabs are spawning in that direction. Across that area. So we just grab this one. Grab this one. And this one. So 3 crabs. So, this location officially gets to stay on the list for crab spawn locations. Alright, just double checking the grass. It looks like the area is wide enough that crabs will just spawn on the beach without delving into the grass. But it's still possible that they might hide into this tall grass. Or is this seaweed? Also, we got some crevices that they could possibly hide in. But as we saw from that one yellow crab that was over here, it can somewhat crawl over the space between the rock and branches. Interesting. Alright. So yes, this crab spawn location is officially viable. So we are going to move on to our final location. All the way in Natlin. To think it has been almost 5 years of Genshin Impact, and we are finally seeing stuff on the western side of the map, the far west. Alright. Just gonna warp right here. And we are in luck that it puts us far enough away from the Statue of 7 that if we didn't have Sayu, we wouldn't disturb the crabs. So these are the 2 crabs that are just here, which have me wondering if this is a legitimate crab spawn location. So we got an ocean crab, and we got a general crab. And this evaluation might actually take several iterations, as in me doing this day after day, because now I'm wondering, did I see a pale blue crab and a general crab last time as well? So I'm wondering if these static spawns are static all the way down to the type of crab that shows up. And then we'll see if more crabs spawn. So, this pause is just going to be for 5 minutes. We are just trying to see if anything will actually show up. Alright, that should be enough time. So let us see what the initial results are. So, absolutely no other crabs spawned in front of here. It may be that we didn't wait long enough, but I'm thinking that those were just static crabs that were placed right in front of the statue. Oh well, can't win them all. Such is the nature of crab spawn. It has taken a lot of trial and error going around to the different locations where crabs can be found to see if those crabs were part of crab spawn. Even with all those failures, it is a satisfying process mapping out all these locations. Almost ran over a crab. Oh. Okay, we might have something over here, but... and possibly over here. Huh. Crabs and lizards in the same area. Don't really see that apart from that location in Inazuma I was just at. Okay, but yeah, that is everything I have related to crab spawn. So for collecting these crabs, I do recommend Sayu or any character that can avoid detection by small creatures. You who are Silencer Secret. The description is, when Sayu's in the party, your character will not startle crystal flies and certain other animals when getting near them. Check the other subcategory of living beings wildlife section in the archive for creatures that this skill will work on. So we have other. We've seen all the crystal flies now, and the coral butterfly. The loaches. 4 types of frogs, 5 types of crabs. The golden crab, the sun crab, the ocean crab, the general crab, and the pale red crab. You know, I think we're overdue for 2 new crab types. What do you think? We also got 5 types of lizards. 4 types of eels. We have the adorned unagi, the deep sea unagi, the red-finned unagi, and the quicksand eel found in Sumeru. So we also have the luck-light fly. I think that's in the chasm. The Malacatin lumabug, a scarab, the sub-detection unit, the phlogiston aphid, and the crystal beetle. So all of these you will not disturb using Sayu's skill or a skill like it. If you don't have her, then I would recommend using a fast character that can quickly run up to and grab the crabs before they even know what's happening, but doesn't damage them with that kind of speed. So, no collecting crabs with... yeah.
Surely I should be doing...
Collecting crabs with Silonin? That's fine. Collecting crabs with Skirk? Weird, but okay. Collecting crabs moving fast using Xiao's elemental skill? No, that's not happening. Using Clarin's elemental skill? No. Using Mawika's elemental skill? I honestly don't think you'll kill a crab by running it over with a bike. I know how crazy that sounds out loud, but I really don't think that will count as damage towards crabs as long as you don't attack. But it'll still be hard to control and grab all the crabs. Running with Varessa? Possibly. Just, again, don't attack. And Venti... No, wait, not Venti. Ah. For the Wanderer... Wanderer is certainly fast enough to make it to the crabs before they notice, but the elevation he gains after using his elemental skill makes it difficult to stay within the range you need to be to collect the crab. So I would only recommend it if you are... I would only recommend using Wanderer to collect crabs if you start out downwind. If you start at the bottom of an incline, then use their elemental skill, and then you'll end up lower to the ground as you climb up that incline. Then you'll be able to collect the crab no problem. But that's a bit more finessing than this strategy is worth. Especially when there are other viable options. You could also just run up to the crab and grab it. Just run and grab normally if you feel up to the challenge, but that was not an option for me when I first started this research and strategy because there was no PlayStation 5 version back then. I just played this game on PlayStation 4, and back then there was a horrible delay in the acquisition of, in pressing the square button to collect the crab and actually collecting the crab. So sometimes it would just fail outright and miss. Granted, this was also the time when defeating monsters would actually just give you everything just scattered across in units of one. But now look at us. Now all of the items are grouped together in bunches by type, so we can collect 4 of a given drop at once. Yeah, we've come a long way in terms of improvement. So yes, this is the culmination of my research into crab spawn as of August 15th, 2025.
Growth spurt by now.
Thank you so much to everyone who came to watch this tutorial, and also those who come to watch the playback later. I hope this was very helpful to you. If you want to see more as I investigate the last 2 locations further, and once Snezhnaya comes out, I will be looking into that area for potential crab spawn locations. If you wish to see more updates, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you will be notified of the next update to crab spawn. And I have been saying that a lot at the end of my videos, because if you've made it to the end, I really appreciate your viewage. But for this, if you notice anyone having issues collecting crabs, feel free to recommend this video as well. Not just because I want the likes, but because I want this to actually help someone, because I know how tedious it can be to collect crabs on a normal basis. Not just purchasing them, running around to the different shops, but actually working to collect them. You see a crab, you want to collect it, but then it actually gets away because one of them notices you. You grab one, but the others run. That is frustrating. So I want to provide a way to actually not only get crabs faster, but have an efficient way to actually make them come to you. So again, if anyone else needs help finding crabs, be sure to recommend this video. It will definitely be staying up here on the Sunset Archon channel. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.